pretty handy where this fell.
So welcome back everyone, Mike here. This afternoon we're going to tear into this old girl right here. This is a really massive oak tree. This thing went down in an ice storm about 6 or 7 weeks ago, something like that. I'm hoping that it's a good solid tree. By all indications I think that it is, at least down here at the base. At that end down there, there are a couple holes in the trees. I mean, I have seen trees this size, you know, they look like they're in decent shape, completely hollowed out, but I don't believe that's the case with this tree. And one of the reasons is when this thing hit the ground, there's no splits or cracks or anything in here, and you'll see that a lot of times on trees that are hollowed out. There's no big, you know, injuries on the bark, or I can't see any rot on the exterior of it anywhere. So I think it's going to be a solid tree. We'll see. I'm going to be using the Stihl MS880. This is a loaner saw from Stihl. I've got the 3-foot bar on it. And I'm starting to rethink that. I may have, you know, should have brought the 4-foot bar, but I'll be all right with this. It won't be any problem at all. But we'll see. And also, I just want to mention, this is by no means like a how-to video. I am not a professional at this. I've been doing it an awful long time, but every tree is different. You know, everybody talks about the dangers in felling trees, and it is a very dangerous thing to do. This one's already on the ground, and there are dozens of hazards here. I'm going to go over a few that I can kind of identify, and we'll get that taken care of, and then we'll get started on it. Alright, the first thing I'm looking at here is to see if it's got any like top bind or tension in it. And really every tree, unless it's laying perfectly, you know, flat on a really nice smooth flat surface, is going to have some kind of bind or tension. This one here, you know, it's suspended off the ground just a little bit right there. You got that root ball on it. That log's off the ground all the way down into there. So there's definitely some top bind on this one. You know, that root ball's pushing in, the weight of the log, it's going to want to pinch your bar. However, as big as it is, I'll have no problem getting like a quarter of the way through it. And you know, normally what I do on smaller trees, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's always worked for me. You know, when you have that top bind and where it wants to pinch your saw, you just make a small cut in it, then come up through the bottom. But with that big saw and a big tree, I think what I'll do when I'm cutting on this end is I'll cut about a quarter of the way through it and just put several wedges in it, and then by the time I get to the bottom, it should just drop straight down. And there's actually a little log laying underneath of it right here. I don't know if you can see that. Should sit right down on that. At least that's the plan. The other thing, This is on a, you can't tell real well from the camera. This is definitely going downhill. You don't ever want to be on the low side of a tree like this. I mean, when that thing takes off, it would just run you over. I don't think this one's going to go too far, but there's no way I would stand on the low side of this when I'm cutting that log. Take a look at the other side here. Something else I'll do before I cut up at this end is cut these off. These are in a lot of tension right here. I mean, they're like a guitar string. And you know, I'll be cutting it right about in here, and I don't want the tip of the bar to hit these things, and I just get this stuff cleared out of here. I think we'll go down around the other side of the tree, and I'll show you the end of it. So what we have here, hopefully, is about 30-35 feet of good log right here. Comes all the way down. But starting right here, the top was dead on this tree. Now there's a few little shoots that came off of here that are what was keeping this tree alive. But you can see this is all split up and busted up all the way out. I mean, it goes down there a ways. So I think what I'll do, I'm going to make my first cut right in here. And there's going to be a lot of top bind on this one right here. Now this log is suspended off the ground. I mean, it's touching right here. But from there, the whole way up to the root ball, it's off the ground. So I'm just going to kind of feel my way into this kind of easy. It's going to want to pinch at the top. Once I get through it just a little bit, I'll put several wedges in there and just cut her on down through to the bottom. All right, I went all the way through on this end. Remember I was talking about that top bind? After I took those wedges out, I had to knock them out of there. See how that pinched together? It's just an incredible amount of pressure in there. Anyway, we're going to go up and cut it off of the root ball up at the other end. I got a helper.
Hi.
What do you think?
I didn't realize that the roots came up out of this.
Yeah.
Wow. That's ginormous. Whew.
I cut this end off down here. I'm going to go up there and cut that end off. I'll show you what I got going on. I was just telling them. So I cut the other end off. And where you're at, this whole tree is suspended off the ground by the root ball on this side.
Right.
And it's touching on the ground down at that end.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the same thing on this end. Cut down through it about a quarter of the way drive some wedges in it,
Okay.
and then all the way through it. And it should just drop a few, maybe 4 or 5 inches onto that log below it, and it all should work out.
Okay.
Well, everything went exactly according to plan. It doesn't always work out that way. If you could see at both ends of this log, there was that top bind I was talking about. Now on something that size, you may be able to get away with just coming from the top all the way down through it and let it pinch shut. And you know, your bar will be past that pinch point, but I don't want to take any chances. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I am by no means a professional. This is not a how-to video. I'm just kind of showing you how I do things. And I'm glad to get this cut off the stump and glad to get it cut at the other end. It's going to be a while before I can get this out. I'm going to measure this up here in a little bit, see what's there, and I'll probably end up getting 3 logs out of it, but I won't cut them today. And then I'll need at least that RK55 to get these. They're big. They're really big. But it appears so far, then from all the cuttings, you know, the chips coming out of the saw, it's nice and solid the whole way through. So that's good. I mean, it's a shame the tree went down, but like I showed you, the end of it was trashed anyway. And if you just let this thing lay here, it doesn't take long at all. The bugs and everything get to them, and they're worthless. So I'm glad.
Especially how wet it is.
Yeah. Oh, it's been wet. Our only option here this time of year is to wait for it to freeze. I've got the Wrangler out here. To bring a tractor out here today, you're just literally spinning your wheels. It's just so wet. I saw this morning on the news, they were talking, they said, I think yesterday's rain either put us right over the record amount for annual rainfall for the year, or very close to it. They were talking about it and I was doing something else, but just been unbelievably wet year. I'm looking, what I think would be great, what do you think, is just freeze up, frozen solid till about the end of February, early March, and then warm up. That would be perfect. Yeah. Because we're tired of the mud.
And it's cold. It's just above freezing. Like it's.
Yeah.
I want it to either be cold, or.
Yeah. The damp cold is like worse than
snowy cold.
Yeah. A dry cold, I'm good with that. But I'm pretty much done with the dangerous stuff.
Good.
She came out to make sure.
It's always good to have an extra person with you. I'm sure you all know that. But
yeah, and I don't normally do that, but we didn't want to ruin Christmas with me being trapped underneath this log out here. That would have been a bad deal.
That would have been.
But anyway, you gonna head back to the house?
I'm sure I could push it off.
Yeah, you could push that one right off of me.
Yeah. I'm gonna get back, check on Hunter.
Yeah, she's gonna head back to the house. And before I wrap this up though, I'm gonna measure this log up and get an idea how many board feet are in this log. I'm curious, and I'll do that. But yeah, everything went good, successful.
Okay. Good job.
So I just measured this tree up as best I could the way it's laying there on the ground. At the small end, it's 29 inches in diameter. At the big end up here where I'm standing, it's 39 or 40 inches, give or take, and it's 38.5 feet long. So I will be able to get out of this tree at least 4 8-footers, you know, cutting them like at 8 feet 6. Actually, probably get one 10-footer out of that. Yeah, 1 10 3/8 will work. And I'm just guessing this tree is going to produce somewhere around 17, maybe even 1,800 board feet of lumber, and it appears to be all solid. So the next step is going to be getting it out of here. And like I said, it's going to have to freeze up. I'll cut this up, you know, into 8-footers or whatever. And once we get a good freeze, I'll bring the RK55 out, probably drag it up to the trail, which isn't far at all, 30, 40 feet. And I'll put the grapple on the 55, and I should be able to carry these out, I think. If not, you know, if it's good and frozen, I'll just skid them all the way out. I just don't want to drag them through the mud. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I think that's it. So everything went pretty well. It's just good to get them off the stump, get them laying there, a little bit more manageable. Plus, I want to try out that 880 on a big tree, and it worked really well. But anyway, I think that's it. And like I always say, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like button, click subscribe, and when you do, hit the little bell icon and share them with your friends. Thanks.